So Barbara, what kinds of wacky weddings do you officiate?
Every wedding that I officiate is absolutely personal. I have tried to do non-personal ceremonies, and I really almost cannot officiate a non-personal ceremony because the story of the couple is too interesting. Everyone's gathered together to find out why are they here, why do they love each other, and so I absolutely 100% focus on that. I've officiated weddings in helicopters. I've officiated weddings in costume, where I'm in costume and the bride and the groom are in costume.
Ooh.
I've done poetry in the backyard. I've married people on yachts, in bars, here in the park, many, many, many times in the park.
That sounds fantastic. So
Yeah.
how do they find you?
Couples find me online. They find me on The Knot, on Wedding Wire. I actually won entry into the Knot Hall of Fame this year. After winning the Knot Awards and the Wedding Wire Awards for several years.
Yay.
Or through other wedding vendors, or through friends, or actually every time I do a wedding, everybody at that wedding sees me officiate that wedding. And so sometimes people come up to me afterwards and say, oh, I love how personal that was. I love how it was all about them. I want to experience that too.
Wonderful.
So I always interview the couple one way or another.
Okay.
Either in person or by questionnaire, and then we write something and I find out everything I can about them, and I become their channel. Whatever they tell me, I tell their guests in their style, whether that's a costume style, whether that's the suite style, whether it's a traditional style, whatever style it is, it's always their style.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the most wacky weddings you've experienced.
Okay, so I met a couple when they were going for the world record of vow renewals, which is about 95, and I met them around number 20.
Wait. So this is the 20th time they got married?
Yes.
Renewed their vows?
On the way to getting the world record. I'm not sure if they've reached it yet.
Wow.
But they've been married on every continent. They got married in Antarctica. They got married in other countries. And one of the things that they came to find out is by doing wedding rituals of other cultures, they started to find out what was important about love in that culture, which I thought was really fascinating. So they came to me and they wanted to do something really playful. So originally, this is Todd and Shirley, they wanted to do a Beatles wedding in the snow because they wanted to get married on New Year's Eve, like New Year's Eve day. They wanted a red rug on the snow, and they wanted a sitar player, and they wanted the really ornate Beatles costumes. So we took them to the costume store, and Shirley hated the Beatles outfits.
Okay.
And so she said, what else can we do? And then someone trotted out a little disco outfit for her.
Okay.
And she fell in love with it. So she and Todd got these disco, really glittery gold disco outfits. But then who am I going to be? And then someone trotted out an Elvis suit, and she said, oh, that's it. And I said, but they're not in the same era. And she said, I don't care. You have to be Elvis. And I said, okay, great. I'll impersonate Elvis. So they brought me out this gigantic man Elvis costume, which they had to take in 4 times because I am not a giant man. And so I wrote them a ceremony that was really absolutely sincere about their entire love story, that also happened to quote from 20 songs of the disco and Elvis eras both. We had roller disco skaters from the Central Park Roller Disco Association that's been going on for 40 years every weekend, which I also love to go to.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. We had a guitar player, and I did the leg and welcomed them into their marriage with each other.
Yes.
And I had the whole outfit on, and the press came.
The press came.
The press came, yeah.
Did the press know about it in advance, or
I tipped them off with permission from Todd and Shirley, and they were really delighted about that. And because it was in the winter, in the morning, when everyone else was still asleep after celebrating in the city, it was just their bright costumes against the totally stark snow. And the pictures of it are beautiful because of that.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So that was their playfulness. And one of the things I love to do in a really playful ceremony is to be absolutely sincere about what their love story really is.
Yeah.
So a wacky wedding it's not, oh, we're going to be crazy because we just want to be crazy, because it's also a profound transformational ritual.
Yeah.
And so we always hold both. We always celebrate. We're so creative and we're so grounded. For a couple, the way that you start your wedding, the way you celebrate your wedding infuses the rest of your marriage. And so if it's really important to you to have creativity and co-creativity in all of your marriage, then you're more likely to choose a super creative wedding because you want your entire life together to...
Well, that's how I want my wedding to be if I ever get married.
So I met Herman and Joel, and they had already hired me to be their wedding officiant. They had been together for about 28 years, and it was right after same-sex marriage passed in New York City.
Yeah.
It was a really beautiful time. I was marrying couples who were together 40 years, 35 years.
Amazing.
And one of the reasons I know what I know about love is because of same-sex marriage, because if the couples who are together 40 years are saying the same things as the couples who've been together 2 years, whatever they're both saying is really true.
Yeah.
So Herman and Joel had already hired me, and they love old Hollywood. They're both artists, and they have this.
So do I.
They have, as you do, they have this deep love of all things old Hollywood. So one day, Joel called me up and he said, actually, do you think you could marry us as Glinda the Good Witch of the North? And of course I said yes immediately, and then you find out why. And it's because she, with her incredible benevolence and kind heart, she represented unconditional love to them. The metaphor of the Wizard of Oz is, you think you don't have what you need, but it turns out you had it the whole time. And so we wove that theme through talking about their relationship to say, Herman and Joel, you've seen each other, you've helped show each other what strong and beautiful men you are over these years by showing the other who you already were, by sharing your love together. So again, we're doing something really playful and outrageous, and at the same time,
but
it's
totally
so
authentic, totally sincere.
Yeah, totally
yeah,
authentic
at the same
and sincere.
time. I love
That's
that.
what it is.
What's the hurricane story?
So okay, so it's
one.
Hurricane Sandy. It's 11:30 at night. I'm around the corner. The MTA, which is the subway system of New York City, has already been shut down.
Yes.
People are being told to stay in their homes.
I remember.
Being a brave lady, have gone around the corner to hang out with some friends and play a game. And I get this call from Glenn at 11:30 at night, and he says, okay, I thought I was married to my wife Bonnie for the last 8 years, but our wedding officiant forgot to register with City Hall. So actually we're not married at all.
Oh my gosh.
And tomorrow's our anniversary on Hurricane Day, and would you please marry us during the hurricane? And I said, no, I will not marry you during the hurricane. Absolutely not. I will not do that. But I said, but you can still get a taxi. You can't take the subway. Tomorrow's going to be dangerous, but if you get in a taxi right now from the Upper West Side to where I am right now with my friends in the East Village, I will marry you at 12:01 a.m., which will still be your anniversary because you already have a license.
That's perfect.
So Glenn responded, okay, I'll get her out of bed. So he gets her out of bed, and about 20 minutes later, maybe it was about 12:20 by that time. By the time they got down there, and then I hear them comping up the stairs, and she's really a little not quite sure about this. I mean, she's going to a strange apartment in the middle of the night during a hurricane to get married by someone she doesn't know. It's all a little weird. And so they take off their shoes and they sit down, and it's really a little bit tense. And then our host says, "Would you like a drink?" And Bonnie says, "Well, if you had a tequila." And so she has a tequila, and suddenly it's like puppies come out, rainbows fly across the sky. She somehow is able to deal with the situation. And when Glenn called me on the phone, he said, we don't want anything romantic. We only want paperwork. And I happen to know that that's never, ever, ever true.
Right.
So I turned to Bonnie and I said, Bonnie, what would you like to say to Glenn today on your wedding day? And so she started to melt, and she started to talk about the flowers 8 years ago, and she got really romantic, and because we were in an artist apartment in the East Village, they had recycled material flowers, so we gave her a recycled material flower, and then it was a love fest.
That sounds so beautiful.
It was really beautiful. And
so whether it's like a lot of planning involved or to spur the moment, it could still be completely wacky and completely authentic at the same time. So in terms of wacky weddings, is there anything that you wouldn't do?
I haven't said no yet.
Okay.
However, one time a couple inquired with me about whether I would wear a clergy robe, and I felt like, that might be a little bit outside the box for me. They didn't end up actually asking me to wear a clergy robe, which I probably would have done if they'd really wanted me to, but I found it so funny that I felt like, I don't know about the clergy robe. But I am an ordained interfaith minister. So I do have that grounding. And I did that because it's better to be an interfaith minister than an internet minister when you do unusual things, because people take you more seriously.
That's true. What was one of the most fun weddings you officiated?
I did this wedding at the Bronx Zoo for a couple who were both performing artists, and they made a film about themselves, about marrying their dark sides to each other. They sang a song, and because we were at the zoo, it was so much fun. They had a ring bear, which was a bear on
bear.
roller skates that brought the bear, and then they had a flower gorilla instead of a flower girl. It was so creative.
Was it the same gorilla?
I kind of recognize the gorilla.
You also have started to do weddings between aspects of one person. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm doing weddings, and so eventually, the way my nature goes is I'm going to make weddings into art also.
Yeah.
So I originally started to do street art ceremonies and say with a cigarette girl style wedding altar. What do you want to pledge your devotion to? What do you want to marry? And so I had friends marrying friends to celebrate their friendship. I had aunties marrying their nieces to celebrate family. I had 15 people who were total strangers marry each other to honor the spark that creates friendship. And then I started to do weddings, these kinds of devotion ceremonies for people with an aspect of themselves. Like I married a photographer to his camera, which is a lifelong devotion.
Yes.
I married a little boy to his favorite dinosaur.
Oh.
I married a woman who had 3 grown daughters to her ability to let her grown daughters leave the house, go off on their own lives, but still be there for them in a totally different way. I married a guy to his own soul. I married another guy to his return to painting after 35 years. I married a woman to a can of soda, and she thought it was going to be a joke. But by the end of her ceremony, and all the ceremonies are improvised, by the end of her ceremony, the can of soda had come to represent the bubbliness of her vivacious spirit. And when she doesn't feel that, she can drink in the bubbliness of her friends and be renewed.
Wow, I'm sure she didn't expect that at all.
No, she thought she was just having a lark. But the thing about these ceremonies is, as soon as you get into the position of a wedding, something genuine is going to occur, and it's genuine, and it's often playful. I recently married a woman to her personal power before she married her husband, so that she would always be in touch with herself as part of her relationship. And it was really beautiful.
That's huge. You know, it gives me an idea, since this is Lust Life and the show is a lot about sex, I was thinking Veronica Willow, would love to marry my sexuality. Do you think you could officiate this ceremony between me and my sexuality?
I would be honored to officiate a marriage ceremony between you and your sexuality, Veronica.